The U.S. coronavirus outbreak reached a grim new milestone yesterday with over 3,000 deaths in one day, a global record. But the president was too busy live tweeting Fox News and trying to get the results of an election he lost overturned. For more on this, it's time for a closer look. Every day, it gets harder and harder to articulate just how shocking and devastating and unbearable this situation is and how sick and depraved and sadistic our leaders are. At some point, you just run out of words. If, when this whole thing started, you'd invested in Purell, Lysol, and Thesaurus.com, you would have made a fortune. King's ransom, a tidy nest egg, racks on racks. Sadly, I put all my stock in Rhymezone.com. Then it turns out, even during quarantine, no one wants to watch my one-man Hanukkah-themed parody of Jersey Boys, Jersey Goys. Menorah lights, we got a dreidel instead of a tree. 8 new presents and they're all for me. Oh, I love menorah lights. In my friend group, I've always been the Miranda, but I guess I'm not Lin-Manuel Miranda. Hey, guys, camera operators, don't just slip jokes in, okay? I mean, I appreciate it, but don't. Anyway, the point is, we're in the midst of a national calamity unlike anything most of us have seen in our lifetimes. It's an ongoing emergency with over 200,000 new cases every day and 100,000 Americans in the hospital as we speak. Republicans spent over $7 million in 2.5 years investigating 4 American deaths in Benghazi in order to, by their own admission, drag down Hillary Clinton's poll numbers. But when you bring up COVID, they act like it's a new TikTok trend they've never heard of before. Is that the one where you eat cereal out of someone else's mouth? And as grotesque and sociopathic as the indifference and incompetence from the Trump administration and Republican Party have been, there's also plenty of blame to go around, from confusing decisions by local officials to close playgrounds but keep gyms and bars open, to hypocrites like the mayor of Austin who told people to stay home while he was on vacation in Cabo. I mean, I'm sure it's a wonderful place, but just being in Cabo sounds like an admission of guilt. If someone started a sentence, "Let me explain, I was in Cabo," you would just say, "Shut up." Unless, of course, you were in Cancun, in which case, you'd have to hear them out. The response to the coronavirus has been a total failure of American governance from the top down, and leadership is desperately needed. The president and his aides could be on TV every single day asking people to stay home for their own sake and for the health of their friends, family, and fellow Americans. They could be leading the charge to get direct payments to Americans and small businesses to help them through the crisis. Instead, Mitch McConnell has been holding up an aid package in order to get a liability shield for corporations that put workers in harm's way, while the White House proposed lowering the federal unemployment benefit, a situation that has clearly infuriated Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders.
Unemployment high. We have a record level of hunger in America. Millions of people are facing evictions. This is an emergency. Congress has got to respond aggressively to help working families. You know, Stephanie, I always get a kick. Here in Washington, when we go to war, there's endless amounts of money. Tax breaks for billionaires, endless amounts of money. Corporate welfare, endless amounts of money. When children are going hungry in America today, suddenly we don't have enough money. That's crap. That's wrong.
Can Bernie be the new host of Jeopardy? That would be fantastic.
What is Los Angeles?
That's crap. That's wrong.
Bernie's right, and there's no better way to say it. This situation should be just as outrageous to you as seeing a BMW parked in a fire lane or getting skipped in line at the deli. And you do not want to skip Bernie at the deli. Whoa, 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 excuse me. I have number 7. I've been waiting here impatiently for 20 minutes, and you just serve him because he walks up to the counter like he owns the place. That's wrong. That's crap. Now I gotta go. I got tickets to Jersey Boys. Sanders and many other progressives like Congresswoman Katie Porter want direct payments to Americans, and in an interview last week, Porter took issue with the fact that such payments are often referred to as stimulus.
One of the things that's making me really frustrated right now is when I hear people talk about this as stimulus. Let's be clear, it is not stimulus money to give people money so they can feed themselves, so that they can keep heat on in the winter, so that they can avoid eviction. That's not stimulus. That is basic needs that we're talking about meeting. And you're absolutely right that it's not enough to just do some unemployment. It's not enough to do more with food assistance. People need that direct assistance.
And she's right, too. All that was missing was a "that's crap" or, a few other swears. Next time, she should feel free to say, "One of the many things that makes me really upset at these jabronis is when I hear their bitch mouths talk about a stimulus." It's not stimulus. It's money for people to eat and pay for housing and utilities. Things Mitch McConnell doesn't have to worry about because, according to the Center for Responsive Politics, he has a net worth of over $34 million. Money I assume he made doing narration for Kentucky Ghost Stories. Gather around, children, for the tale of the coal zombie. Porter's right that we shouldn't call this stimulus. It's not about stimulating the economy. It's about keeping people alive. If you see someone on the side of the road next to a car wreck, you don't pull over and say, "No, so you want me to call AAA? What's next? A tourniquet for your leg?" Everybody wants a handout. The richest country on earth should have a political system that sees the dire situation we're in. 3,000 dead in a day, 100,000 hospitalized, millions facing eviction, unemployment, and hunger, and rushes to do something about it. Instead, here's what the leader of the White House Coronavirus Task Force was talking about yesterday as the U.S. set a new daily record for coronavirus deaths.
Space itself represents a warfighting domain, and we will be prepared to defend our nation and defend our freedom in space.
I mean, sure, why not? After all, we're at a place now where going to space and going to Applebee's are equally dangerous. Also, I'm sorry, I wasn't aware our freedom was threatened in space. What's the issue there? Aliens using paper straws in their spacecrafts? Are you not allowed to say Merry Christmas on Zorblack 7? Maybe Pence is obsessed with space because he has the same level of compassion and charisma as a protocol droid on a Star Destroyer. I doubt he's even a real person. He's like the hologram doctor on Star Trek Voyager. I bet if you keep your eye on him long enough, he'll flicker. All we have to do to make sure Pence never becomes president is press the red button on his back. Not to be confused with his blue eject shame button that has already been pressed multiple times. Also, what is it with presidential administrations using space as a topic changer? There's a war in Vietnam and we must pass the ERA. Shh, okay, ladies, hippies, I hear you, but look at that. There's a guy on the moon. His name is Neil. Wait, shouldn't Buzz have gone first? It's just such a better space name. That's for another time. But maybe that's their COVID plan. Quarantine everyone in space. We'll be launching people into orbit to keep the coronavirus from spreading. And Rudy, please keep your helmet on. When I cough in the helmet, the spit comes right back at me. Oh no, my teeth are floating away again. Although, to be honest, I wish Trump had been talking about space and maybe, going there. Instead, he spent his entire day as thousands of Americans were dying alone in overwhelmed hospitals, scream-tweeting unhinged nonsense about the election he lost, trying to get the result overturned, and of course, watching Fox News.
President Trump, who attacked Hunter Biden and his overseas interests nearly every day during the campaign, tonight tweeted a quote from a guest on Tucker Carlson's Fox News show. 10% of voters would have changed their vote if they knew about Hunter Biden. Trump added, "But I won anyway."
Good thing you included Tucker's handle or he might not have seen it. The president actually spent his night tweeting at his favorite TV personalities like a lunatic fanboy tweeting at Dancing with the Stars. "You never gave Carol Baskin a chance at Dancing ABC." And not to be petty, but it's worth pointing out once again that our president's Twitter handle is @RealDonaldTrump, the kind of clarification porn stars have to make. Are we really surprised he didn't order enough vaccines when he couldn't even get @DonaldTrump? Also, I'm not sure I'd tweet out anything Tucker says as fact, since Fox News lawyers successfully argued in court that they shouldn't be held liable for what he says because viewers should know he's not telling the truth. A judge actually ruled in court that the general tenor of the show should inform a viewer that Carlson is not stating actual facts about the topics he discusses and is instead engaging in exaggeration and non-literal commentary. Given Mr. Carlson's reputation, any reasonable viewer arrives with an appropriate amount of skepticism about the statements he makes. I mean, forget the tenor of the show. The general tenor of Tucker Carlson's voice should make you wonder if he's one of the rich kids Al Pacino yells at in Scent of the Woman. You know that scene at the end where there's a disciplinary hearing in a theater for some reason, and Al Pacino's just allowed a expletive-filled 15-minute monologue, which makes the school change its mind, I guess. And again, for anyone who doesn't think we're going to have anything to talk about post-Trump, that's not the only 90s movie with third-act problems. Tucker would be a kid that invites someone on student aid to come with him on a ski trip to Stowe and then add, "Oh, wait, you probably can't afford that, bro." And I will say, I love all the euphemisms for lies, but my favorite is non-literal commentary. Try that sometime with your spouse after getting back from a trip to Vegas. "I thought you said no strip clubs. You said you were just going to see Jersey Boys." "Don't be ridiculous. No one would see Jersey Boys." That was non-literal commentary. And on top of that, they expect any, quote, reasonable viewer to know this. Sadly, Trump is not a reasonable viewer. He's the kind of guy who would channel surf past Independence Day on TNT and think aliens were attacking the White House. Trump and his allies and right-wing media are now all in on creating a false mythology around his election loss, an unhinged fantasy world where he actually won and votes for anyone else are illegitimate. And their basis for this belief is not any actual proof of voter fraud, since there is none. They just take it as an article of faith that there's no way Trump could have lost. And that's not just a dumb cable news argument. That's actually what their lawsuit says. Remember, they've argued in court that they're not alleging fraud. They've literally said this is not a fraud case because they don't have any proof of fraud. So they've been reduced to arguing in court filings that it's somehow statistically impossible that Joe Biden could have won the states he won.
That document that you have before you, that case, the Texas v. Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, this is the single most important document of the 2020 election. I would encourage everyone to read this document. It is big. For President Trump to be ahead as far as he was at 3 a.m. in these 4 states, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Georgia, and for the vote to swing by as much as it did, the probability of that in one state is 1 in 1 quadrillion. That's 1, 15 zeros.
15 zeros. Are you talking about the election or Trump's legal team? Booyah. Come on, Kayleigh. You can't toss me an alley-oop like that. Actually, I'm just kidding. Trump could never get 15 lawyers to work for him. In fact, and this is true, the statement Trump issued joining with the Texas lawsuit was so embarrassing he could only get one lawyer to sign it, a guy named John Eastman, a discredited racist who pushed the preposterous lie that Vice President-elect Kamala Harris wasn't eligible. You can see the evolution of the modern GOP in a straight line from birtherism to this. All their insane conspiracy theories are coming together in the final episode. If this were Twin Peaks, and it might be, the audience would be saying, oh, Trump killed Laura Palmer, but it was because he was possessed by the spirit of Bob, a.k.a. Steve Bannon. Well, that's unsatisfying, and still, there's been a tragedy. And just to give you an idea of how flimsy and error-prone this latest court filing is, to support their claim that it's somehow statistically impossible that Trump could lose, his attorney made a claim Trump also tweeted out earlier in the day, writing, President Trump won both Florida and Ohio. No candidate in history, Republican or Democrat, has ever lost the election after winning both states, which is true if you just start counting after 1960, because in 1960, that exact thing happened. Richard Nixon won both Florida and Ohio and lost to JFK. Do these guys do, like, any research before they write this stuff? Can you not afford a Siri or a Clippy? Just swallow your pride and ask Jeeves, for God's sakes. These lawsuits have been so nonsensical and unhinged that even Republican judges and judges appointed by Trump himself has rejected them. In one case, a Trump-appointed judge, joined by 2 other Republican judges appointed by George W. Bush, wrote that calling an election unfair does not make it so. Charges require specific allegations and then proof. We have neither here. They're basically explaining how a court case is supposed to work. Normally, lawyers wear ties and have pens and notebooks and briefcases full of papers that aren't, leaking from the head like an overloaded hefty bag. And yet, Republicans in 17 states joined the insane Texas lawsuit seeking to overturn millions of votes. The 2 GOP senators in Georgia voiced their support for it, effectively saying the Supreme Court should overturn the will of their own constituents. This is what Trump and the Republican Party obsessively focused on as thousands of Americans die every day from a pandemic they clearly don't care about. As I said before, at some point, you just run out of words. All you can really say is,
That's crap. That's wrong.
This has been A Closer Look. God's Love We Deliver cooks and brings over 2 million meals a year to men, women, and children living with HIV, AIDS, cancer, and other serious illnesses, and they need your help now more than ever. If you're watching this online, you can hit the donate button. Stay safe, wash your hands, wear a mask. We love you.